Hey everybody, today's September 2nd. Today we're going to talk about the price of Bitcoin. And right now, Bitcoin is really fighting to try to stay above 50,000, which is a major strong resistance level. And we're going to talk about whether Bitcoin has the strength to break above this resistance level and continue up higher, or whether this is going to roll over and continue down lower. Before we begin, please read the disclaimer, and you can pause this video as you read it. Okay, so Bitcoin has basically been going sideways for now, and this is something I talked about would likely happen because this is right now $50,000. There's two reasons why there's strong resistance level, right? First is our long-term moving average, the blue line here, the 200-day moving average, right? And the second reason is our Fibonacci levels, right? Fibonacci levels tend to act as strong support and resistance levels, and right now we are trying to flip resistance into support for both the 200-day moving average, our long-term moving average, and also the Fibonacci resistance level from resistance to support. And so that's why I talked about how in our previous two videos, I talked about how I thought Bitcoin would either take two routes. Either we would have a strong break above, come down, retest, and then continue up higher, or we would consolidate, move sideways along this Fibonacci level before moving up higher, right? Slowly absorbing the supply and building a base, a strong base to move up higher from, right? And right now, it does seem like we are going with the latter scenario. And this is right now, Bitcoin is, even though it did actually break. Let's look at the 4-hour chart. We did break 50,000 recently, a couple hours ago, but we are starting to, just like we had in late August, sort of being rejected from this level, which is it's not unusual or anything. Like this is usually what happens when we're trying to break strong resistance level, right? 50,000 is a strong psychological resistance level. You know, it's a nice round number. But yeah, we had a strong move over the last 24 hours, right? We literally went from like 47,000 all the way up to 50,000, which is a very fast move. And so I'm not surprised. Like the last time we went from this high, we had to consolidate a little bit, right? And the last time we tried to move up, we got rejected. So the fact that we moved from this Fibonacci support level all the way up to 50,000 so quickly, I'm not surprised that we have a bit of a pullback. You know, maybe consolidate a little bit before trying to attempt to break up higher. So I'm not too worried about this pullback in the last couple hours. But what we want to see is Bitcoin continue to stay above not only this blue line, but also this Fibonacci line right here, right? So let's talk about the blue line. I've said many times in previous video how it's important for Bitcoin to stay above this blue line, right? The blue line, the 200-day simple moving average, this is our long-term support level, right? In our last major bull cycle from 2015, late 2015, all the way up to late 2017, Bitcoin always stayed above the blue line, right? I've said this many times. We did wick below here, but we never closed below. This whole run, we stayed above the blue line. So when we finally broke below the blue line, it was kind of worrying, right? We broke below below this 200-day moving average back in May, and we basically stayed below this line for nearly 3 months now. And so, yeah, it was very worrying because not only did we stay below, but we kept making lower lows to lower highs, right? Typical bearish downtrend. But thankfully, we were able to hold this Fibonacci support level, which I'll talk about coming up. And basically, it took a while, but we finally broke above. And of course, it wasn't easy, right? We broke above, and then we came down. We tried to stay above a couple times, and finally we stay above right now, right? And we did come down. Let me just switch to a line chart so it's easier. So yeah, we can see here how we came down. We tried to stay above, and we actually broke down below a couple times. And then most recently, we come below, and we've actually stayed above the blue line, finally, right? So it does seem like we are finally flipping the 200-day from resistance to support, right? We held as support this whole run up, right? We stayed above the blue line, and we had a strong break below here, a violent breakdown, and we turned that support into resistance. But now we are finally trying to flip this resistance into support, and we will confirm if we are able to continue to move sideways, build a base, and then launch up higher. Once we launch up higher, it will be confirmed that we finally flipped the 200-day from resistance into support. Right now, we are currently working on the Fibonacci level as well, right? This Fibonacci level held as support when we came down to 30,000, right? Our first correction of this year in late January, Bitcoin came down to 30,000 after moving up very quickly, held this as support and moved up higher, right? And when we had our correction came down, we also held 30,000 as support 3 times before finally bouncing up. So these Fibonacci levels act as strong supports, and the fact that we've basically bounced out has confirmed that 30,000 will likely be our floor, right? At least in the midterm. If we are to continue up higher, if we continue on lower, it'll definitely hold as support again. But again, I do expect it to break if we do come down, because the more times we test certain levels, whether it's support or resistance, the more likely we are to break up below or above it. So we definitely don't want to see us break below to 430,000 again. But let's talk about our next level of support, right, which is around 47,000. So once we broke above this Fibonacci resistance level, we came down, held it as support, and went up higher, right? And of course, resistance around 65,000, which is our Fibonacci resistance level up here, the next channel, right? We held support at 47,000 two times before finally breaking in May as well. When we finally broke below, we turned the support back into resistance. And so right now we are trying to flip that resistance back into support right here. This is another reason why. So we have two major levels, the 200-day and the Fibonacci resistance level, that we're trying to flip from resistance to support. So that's why Bitcoin is going sideways now. We're trying to, the bulls are trying to fight the bears and turn this into a strong base for us to launch higher and retest the previous all-time high of 65,000, which is of course our next resistance level in the next Fibonacci channel, right? The next upper boundary over here. And yeah, so this is really the power of these moving averages and also the Fibonacci levels to give us support and resistance level to help us trade. And yeah, so that's Bitcoin right now. What we want to see is in the short term, in the medium term, we want it to hold the 200-day moving averages, blue line, and also hold the Fibonacci level. Basically stay above 47,000 and also break and also stay above 50,000. Once we have that break above, maybe one more test come down before we continue higher to try to retest the previous all-time high around 65,000. All right, so let's look at the MACD and the RSI, our oscillators. Of course, you can see the volume has been going down, right? And that's led to a downtrend in the MACD, right? And this is something that kind of is worrying to me, because we also saw a similar pattern earlier this year where we saw the downtrend in the MACD, right? And that also coincided with the rise in the price. And right now we're seeing something similar, right? The price is rising, but the MACD is also going down, and that led to a bearish divergence, which predicted this huge crash, right? A 55% drawdown. So that's something that's worrying me right now, because if we don't see more buyers coming in, this could end up being sort of like a distribution pattern that we saw earlier this year, which can lead to a drawdown again, right? And let's look at the RSI. Something very similar happening in the RSI as well. Earlier this year, we saw Bitcoin rise, but we saw the RSI drop, right? We're also seeing something similar right now, right? We're seeing the price of Bitcoin rise while the RSI is dropping, And what that means is that the buying momentum is starting to slump a bit, right? And this could end up being a distribution pattern where the smart money is selling to the dumb money, right? And that's not what we want to see. We want to see Bitcoin continue going up higher. So although we have like nice buyers coming in right now over the last 24 hours, right? We want to see the buying trend continue, and we want to see Bitcoin bulls continue to fight and push the price higher, right? We need to see a strong break and hold above 50,000, and that's gonna move our oscillators up, right, out of this downtrend, because we don't want to see another bearish divergence, because the last time we saw a bearish divergence, of course, we saw a huge crash, right? And we see another bearish divergence play out, it can move sideways before crashing again. So that's one of the risk factors. I'll talk about another risk factor on the weekly chart later on. But so this is Bitcoin on the daily chart. As long as we hold above 47,000, we have a chance of breaking 50,000. Once we break above 50,000, I think we can try to reclaim the all-time high again. So let's look at the hash rate. So hash rate, of course, we've been recovering for a while, right? Hash rate is important because this coincides with the Bitcoin price, right? Of course, we had a peak hash rate at April 14th, which was also our all-time high, right? April 14th, around 65,000. So we're starting to see the hash rate bottom and recover. Of course, Bitcoin also bottoming and recovering as well. So very similar. So definitely we want to see the hash rate continue to recover and go up higher, and of course surpass the previous all-time high. And I think that Bitcoin's price will likely follow it as well. Fear and greed index is also it's been in greed for a while now, which is actually a good thing, right? Because in the previous bear market, we were basically the fear and greed were trapped below 70 for a while, right? And in a bear market, fear and greed can remain at low levels for a long time. So the fact that we're above 70, as long as we stay above 70, right, like we had in the last rally from October until now, right? Sorry, October until April, right? We saw the fear and greed index remain at high elevated levels for a while. So in a strong bull market, the fear and greed index can remain at elevated levels, and that's not necessarily, it doesn't mean it's going to crash anytime soon. It's just, this is usually when you have strong bullish momentum and we have buyers coming in, right? So we want to see this not only remain above 70 but go a lot higher, right? So as long as we stay above 70, I won't be too worried, because in a healthy, strong bull market, the fear and greed index can remain elevated at higher levels, just like in a bear market, the fear and greed index can be remain below in low values for a long time. All right, so let's look at our indicators. 2-year multiplier, right? Telling us to exit signal above this orange line. We haven't gotten above that, right? So all these indicators I'm about to go through, it really shows that it makes me believe that we are in a mid-cycle correction rather than in a bull cycle top that's leading into a bear market, because right now we're in the middle of this channel, right? We haven't even broken above it to even trigger a shaded area, which is usually our signal to exit, right? So and also as we continue to go sideways, this upper boundary, the boundary at which when we cross, is this indicator is telling us to exit, to sell, right? This line continues to go up higher, right? So this line right now is just below 110,000. So when we cross this line, we tend to overshoot to the upside, right? And of course, in a bear market, we overshoot to the downside. But when we overshoot to the upside, not only will this tell us to exit signal above 100,000, but this might actually go up a lot higher to maybe 200,000. Who knows? It'll be more clear as we see the price action develop, and we'll definitely use this indicator to help us exit the market near the top. Another indicator that's good at predicting where to exit is the price cycle top indicator, which has pretty accurately or very accurately signaled the top of the Bitcoin bull markets. Obviously, we had a very accurate signal over here earlier this year, but right now this indicator may be telling us that it could be a good time to get back into the market, right? Because right now we crossed above this orange line, right? We cross above the orange line, and usually when the green line is above the orange line and the price crosses above the orange line, this is usually, like we had over here, 2016, a good time to start to buy back into your position, right, in Bitcoin. And of course over here, right, when the green line is above the orange line and the price is above the orange line. Of course, this could be a fake out like we had over here that could lead to a bear market. And also here, we crossed above the orange line, green line above the orange line, but it also ended up rolling over. So, but generally speaking, these type of false positives tend to roll over quickly. So as long as the longer the Bitcoin stays above this orange line and continues to grind higher, right, and not roll over, the higher the probability that Bitcoin is actually in a bullish uptrend, right? Instead of this being a false positive that will lead to more downtrend into a bear market. So I still believe that we are still in a mid-cycle correction rather than in a bear market. So as long as we stay above this orange line, that should be confirmed. Pull multiplier, of course, telling us to exit signal once this red line enters the shaded area over here. We haven't even gotten there yet, right? The highest we got was back in March, April, and this area over here is very similar to the mid-cycle correction in 2017, right? Over here, and similarly in July and August. So I do think that there's still a lot more upside, right? We're nowhere near overbought yet, right? In fact, we actually came down to oversold territory over here, which is likely a good time to buy this dip, right? So a lot of upside in my opinion based on this pull multiplier, looking very much like a mid-cycle correction rather than a bull market top. Golden ratio multiplier tells us to exit signal when a dotted line is printed. Right now we haven't gotten enough momentum to the upside to trigger a dotted line to print, right? Which is usually above this purple line. Historically, this signal has told us to exit above the purple line when it hits the dotted area. We did almost break above this purple line, but we didn't hold this very long. But the thing is, we're now bouncing off the lower boundary, this orange line, right? And this is a good thing because in a bear market, it generally will stay below this orange line. But so as long as the price of Bitcoin stays above this orange line, right? Let's zoom in a little bit. As long as the price of Bitcoin stays above this orange line, we're likely in a mid-cycle correction and still in a bullish uptrend, bullish market rather than in a bear market. As long as we hold, if we break down below this orange line and we stay below the orange line, we're likely in a bear market. But for now, we give benefit of the doubt to the bulls as long as we stay above this orange line, right? And of course, as Bitcoin price continues to recover, these upper boundary is going to continue to go up a lot higher, giving us a higher potential exit signal, right? Right now, 107,000. Of course, in the past, we've overshot this purple line to the dotted line, so that's going to give us an even higher potential exit signal, but we'll definitely have to update you as the price action develops going forward. And as the price approaches the purple line, we'll have a more clear prediction as to where the potential final top of this bull market could be. Logarithmic growth curves is, of course, telling us that in the previous cycles, we tend to peak when we hit the upper boundary, right? of this channel, and we are looking nowhere near that, right? So it does look like this peak of 65,000 that we had earlier this year in April does seem like a mid-cycle correction, right? Even when our pullback 55%, we didn't even touch the lower boundary. Usually in a bear market, we continue down lower to touch the lower boundary, right? So as long as we continue to go up higher and not trend towards this orange line, Bitcoin should be able to continue up higher, right? It will likely be a mid-cycle correction in a bull cycle that's still continuing rather than in a bear market, right? And this, of course, again, like the other indicators, the upper boundary continues to move up higher as the price of Bitcoin continues to recover and move up higher, giving us a higher potential exit signal. And that signal today is at 126,000, but of course, Bitcoin will likely peak later this year, like it usually does late in the year in December. And that's going to give us even higher around maybe like, well, this is telling us like 150, but we don't know. Things can happen. This can overshoot, right? And of course, this chart is telling us that when the red line shoots up higher, right, it tends to give us an exit signal. But we haven't even we're nowhere near 1, right? This is 1.50. We're nowhere near that. So still a lot of upside to go. Nowhere near overbought, right? Z-score, of course, telling us to signal once we not only break through the red line, but we almost overshoot sometimes, right? And of course, there is a pattern that this intensity tends to be less in each cycle, right? Because of more market participants and higher market cap. It takes a lot more money to move the market, right? But again, we haven't even penetrated this area yet, so we're nowhere near overbought on this indicator as well. And no exit signal yet, right? This seems like a mid-cycle correction rather than a market cycle top. Lastly, we'll look at stock to flow model. Of course, stock to flow model telling us that the price of Bitcoin should be around this red area, right? So as of today, we should be around 80,000. So we're still under. We're still like undershooting the predicted model, right? And this deviance chart gives us a better idea of how much we're undershooting or overshooting. Usually, we want to exit signal when we have a massive overshooting of the price, right? Right now, we are still undershooting it right now, and very similarly as well, right? This is July of 2021 this year. We had a massive deviation when we had that crash, right, from the average price of where Bitcoin should be based on the stock to flow model chart, right? And this is in July of 2021, right? Similarly, when we had a mid-cycle correction in 2017, see, this is July of 2017, right? So you can see how there's a very similar intensity magnitude of a pullback during the correction, and now we're seeing a nice recovery. And if we do follow a pattern where we start to overshoot, we should see this model continue not only higher but overshoot the red line, because historically we tend to see Bitcoin overshoot on the upside during a bull market and also on the downside during a bear market. Overall it tends to stabilize around the red line in the long run, right? So right now we are undershooting it right now. So we will likely see going into the end of this year, right? There's still 4 months left until the year ends. There's still a lot of time for Bitcoin to go up a lot higher, overshoot. Likely will overshoot into 200 or 300,000 depending based on this model. But definitely we need to wait to see the price action develop for us to get a better estimate, and we'll definitely do that in the next couple months going into the end of this year, right? So of course this model is telling us that we're nowhere near overbought, right? Nowhere near a potential sell signal yet, right? So much upside left, right? We're still under this red line. Not only will we likely hit this red line, but we'll overshoot. And 200, 300,000, who knows? Sky's the limit, right? So yeah, I mean, all these indicators, these models are telling us that Bitcoin is still nowhere near overbought. It's nowhere near the bull market top, right? There's no exit signal that has been triggered yet on all these models, right? We're likely still in a mid-cycle correction in a bull market that will likely continue higher, right? And we still have 4 months left of the year, right? It's September right now. Speaking of September, we also had a monthly and weekly close that we haven't looked at yet. So let's get a clean chart. We had a nice green candle close, right? And like I said in previous videos, in a strong bull market, right? 2013 and also 2017, there are more green candles than red candles, right? And so what we want to see is for the rest of the year only green candles. I know that sounds very ambitious, but we don't want more red candles than green candles, right? Because there's more red candles than green candles in bear markets, 2018 and 2014, right? If Bitcoin is to go parabolic in make a massive move like we just predicted looking at all these previous models to above 100,000, we need strong green candles and a strong momentum to the upside. And I do think that Bitcoin is following something similar to 2013, where we have two market cycle top, like a mid-cycle correction over here and a massive rally going into the end of this year, right? And end of that year, sorry. Two red candles during the correction. This is 85% correction, right, by the way. And a massive hammer reversal candle leading up to a massive rally into the end of the year, end of 2013. We have 6 consecutive green candles, by the way. So this is six consecutive green candles, right? Similarly, we also had 6 consecutive green candles. And then a pullback, and then another massive rally, right? 6 consecutive green candles, pullback, hammer candles over here. So you can see hammer candles, similarly to 2013, and a massive rally. So that's my prediction. Obviously, it's not following it exactly, but it's very similar. Like, history doesn't always repeat exactly, but it does rhyme. And I think that right now we're seeing similar price action in 2021 as we saw in 2013, right? 2 market cycle tops. And yeah, as long as we continue to go up higher, bulls come in, defend these levels, and push up higher, I do think that we will likely see above 100,000 easily by the end of this year, right? Still 4 more months, still a lot of time, right? Weekly close looking really good. We had a red candle over here. It was actually a lot worse, but bull stepped in and pushed up a lot higher. So yeah, this generally is it's like a doji candle, right? An indecision candle, but we do want to see follow up because this candle can easily be a market cycle top. If this next candle, this next weekly candle this week closes red, we will likely see a reversal. But if this weekly candle closes green, it will likely follow this direction higher, right? So we definitely want to see this week close green. Yeah, so while we're looking at the weekly chart, so I want to look at one of the second potentially bearish scenarios is that every time we hit the weekly 50-day moving average, right? Sorry, the weekly 50 moving average, there tends to be a strong bounce historically in the past before rolling over into a bear market, breaking below. And we know this is true after it breaks below the silver line, right? There's a strong bounce once we hit it, and then we eventually roll over into a bear market. So that's 2014 and 2018 bear markets. So the question is, we hit this level. We hit the level right now. We're seeing a bounce. Are we going to hold this level and go down lower? Or are we going to continue up higher, right? So this is another potentially bearish scenario, right? And right now, yeah, Bitcoin is in a critical moment. We need to keep closing as many candles green as possible if we are to continue this bull market rally, right? Right now, Bitcoin has a top over here, and we have the potential to form a base over here. If Bitcoin were to continue higher and form a strong base here to launch up higher, right? And potentially be a strong bottom for the next bear market bottom, right? So if Bitcoin is Bitcoin bouncing right here, bear market, bounce over here, and then rolls into bear market. So that is a potentially bear scenario. But we want to see this bounce continue high. We don't want to see it bounce and then roll over, right? So another potentially bearish scenario. But overall, right now, Bitcoin has been very impressive in the last 24 hours, right? We saw an incredible move from this Fibonacci resistance level, very high, a strong move, right? And of course, we're having a bit of a pullback right now, which is not surprising. But what we want to see at the bare minimum is we want to see Bitcoin hold this level, Fibonacci level, right? 47,000. And we also want to see us hold the 200-day moving average, the blue line, right? These are our very important long-term and mid-term moving averages. If we can hold these levels, then we'll have a chance. And we also, of course, want to break 50,000, right? Right now, we're getting a rejection off of it, but we don't know how this candle is going to close. There's still a couple hours left until the end of the day. The daily candle closes. But hopefully we're able to at least stay above these two strong levels and flip the 200-day and the Fibonacci resistance level into support by holding above these level. Build a strong base, right? And then continue up higher. We might move sideways for a while, consolidate, but as long as we stay above those levels, we will probably is high that will continue up higher, and then we can challenge the previous all-time high of 65,000, right? Hopefully sometime this month. And then we will have quarter 4, right? October, November, December, 3 months where we can do price discovery and go up to new all-time highs, above 100,000 likely, right? So yeah, that's the Bitcoin price analysis today. I'll definitely update you guys going forward, and hopefully Bitcoin can next time. Hopefully Bitcoin will be above 50,000 or beyond, right? Hopefully Bitcoin will be above 50,000 and close to retesting all-time high, and that'll be pretty amazing, giving us the last couple months of this year to break out to new all-time highs. And it'll be very exciting times, but we'll definitely update you guys on the price action going forward. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it useful, helpful, informative, please like this video, leave a comment below, and subscribe for updates. I appreciate all your support. Thank you again, and have a great day.